GPT 5.6 Terra, GLM 5.2, and DeepSeek V4 Flash are the three names showing up in every cheapest coding model search right now, and I ran the same 5 tests on all three. Cost per token, coding benchmarks, speed, context and output limits, and deployment. Here's the surprise. DeepSeek V4 Flash's sticker price looks like the easiest win in this whole comparison, but Flash burns more tokens per task, so the real bill on a complex job can creep right up toward what GLM or even Terra would cost you. Input tokens tell the first part of the story. GPT 5.6 Terra charges $2 or lower per million. That's the post-July 30 price after OpenAI's cut. GLM 5.2 comes in at $1.40 on ZAI's list. DeepSeek V4 Flash undercuts both at 0.14, according to its official API docs. That's 14 times cheaper than Terra on input alone. Output pricing widens the gap even further. Terra runs $12 per million output tokens. GLM sits at $4.40, and Flash charges just 0.28. Cached input pushes it even further. Flash's cache hit rate is 0.28 per million tokens, 71 times cheaper than GLM's 0.26. If your workflow reuses the same context repeatedly, that number alone should get your attention. Here's what that looks like at scale. At 10 million output tokens a month, Flash costs you about $280. Terra, on that same volume, runs you around $120. DeepSeek V4 Flash wins this test clean. No asterisks, at least on paper. That's a 43 times difference between Flash and Terra on the exact same metric. My name is Brian, and I spend most of my week digging through pricing pages, benchmark trackers, and model docs to figure out where these tools actually differ. Let's start with the number everyone searches for first. Cheap tokens don't matter if the model can't finish the job. On the AA Coding Agent Index, an independent measure from artificial analysis, Terra scores 77.4, the highest of the three, with Flash trailing at 69.1. GLM doesn't have a published score on this particular index. SWBench Pro, which grades models on real GitHub issue resolution, tells a tighter story. Terra scores 63.4%. GLM comes in close behind at 62.1%, a narrow 1-point gap. Terminal Bench 2.1 is where all three actually show up on the same chart. Terra leads at 87.4%, Flash follows at 82.7%, and GLM sits at 81.0%. Flash edging out GLM here is a genuine surprise given how far behind Flash trails on the other two benchmarks. Terra wins every benchmark here it shows up in. This is the test that decides who you'd trust with a real production codebase, and Terra's the clear winner. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. DeepSeek's own agentic coding harness has Terra scoring 69.6% against Flash's 54.4%, a 15-point gap on a test that's supposed to favor DeepSeek's own architecture. Coding benchmarks tell you if a model can do the job. Speed tells you what it feels like while it's doing it. On sustained output, GLM 5.2 hits 129.8 tokens per second, the fastest of the three, with Flash close behind at 122.7 and Terra trailing at 128.4. Time to first token flips the story completely. Flash answers in 1.48 seconds, GLM in 1.93, and Terra lags at 3.56 seconds, more than double Flash's latency. For quick, interactive edits, that gap is the difference between feeling instant and feeling like you're waiting on a search engine. GLM takes this test on raw throughput, but if your workflow is fast back and forth editing rather than long generation, Flash's snappier first response is the one you'll actually notice. That's a narrow win for GLM, about 7% over the field. Stick with me because the last 4 tests are where this decision actually flips. Context windows are basically. On context and output limits, DeepSeek V4 Flash pulled clearly ahead once the workload got real. There is a real caveat on context and output limits worth naming before we score it. Context windows are basically. Next up is deployment and modality, the test that quietly decides whether the rest of this comparison even matters. On deployment and modality, neither one ran away with it once the workload got real. There is a real caveat on deployment and modality worth naming before we score it. So deployment and modality lands as a tie, and the scoreboard barely moves. Here's where GPT-5.6 Terra clearly pulls ahead of the field. Now, here's where GLM 5.2 clearly pulls ahead of the field. Here's where DeepSeek V4 Flash clearly pulls ahead of the field. Pick the one whose single biggest strength matches the job in front of you today. One thing the docs never spell out will quietly cost you if you miss it. If this helped, the next breakdown on the channel goes even deeper.